yesterday, Longpa Pasano gave this morning reflection, and this one-liner jumped out at me as like a really profound Dhamma, but just listening casually, we might not make note of it or might not notice how profound it is. And that was, we contrive dukkha out of nowhere. We conjure dukkha out of thin air, and then we wonder why we're not happy. So I was using that as kind of a mantra yesterday. We conjure dukkha out of thin air, and then we wonder why we're not happy. And that really is a very profound Dhamma statement, and is a testament to Longpa Pasano's fluency in Dhamma to be able to talk like that. Normally we'd have to use Pali terms like sankhara and whatnot to refer to Dhamma that profound. In terms of conjuring dukkha out of thin air, it's not coming from somewhere outside, it's coming from inside. And that's what that statement points to, that not only are the defilements, the kilesa, always looking for an object to suffer over, but they are actually creating the object and then suffering over it. They're actually creating the object and then suffering over it. So it's actually even more absurd than it seems to be. And it's already, dukkha already doesn't make sense. So the sankhara through ignorance is generating the objects of attachment and then attaching to them, and then there's suffering that arises over them. So that's, you could think of that as a more applied thought experiment as to dependent origination as well. So sankhara, ignorance, sankhara, and vijnana, and all the way down to dukkha. That's how it's working, but it's not working in the way that it seems when we might read it on paper. It's actually very, very subtle, very profound. It makes me think of the statement of Ananda, this giving rise to bright faith in the Buddha's teaching. It's telling the Buddha, dependent origination is amazing. It seems so clear to me. It seems so obvious to me. And the Buddha says, don't say that, Ananda. Paticcasamuppada, dependent origination, is not that clear, and it's not that obvious. It's profound and deep. And its implications are vast. And so that statement that Longpa Pasano made yesterday, we conjure dukkha out of thin air, and then we wonder why we're not happy. It's very good to think about, very good to consider all the time as we go about our day. And so as I was coming down for tea time yesterday, this phrase was kind of going through my mind, and I thought, I'm going to have to write that down and maybe put it up in the office. And so I came down, and then somebody had already written it down for me. And it was there in gold letters, the phrase. So somebody had already written down and laminated it for me. So, okay, all I had to do was think about it and then manifest it. So it goes both ways too. It's we conjure happiness. We conjure happiness out of thin air. So we wonder where the happiness comes from. We think it's coming from outside. It's coming from inside. So it goes both ways. And that also reminds me of when Longpa Liam was here in 2004, and he gave a talk up at the ordination platform. There was another talk that there was this one part of it that really stuck with me that I reflected on over the years, and that was the mind has these default reactions to circumstances. And so the default reaction of the heart when we experience dukkha, when we experience suffering, the default reaction is criticism. And when the heart experiences happiness, the default reaction is praise. And that interplay of dukkha and sukha with praise and criticism, the way Longpa was talking about it, was quite interesting to me and quite fascinating. And so it's all coming from inside. So it's good to reflect on that when we feel a little bit upset or a little bit irritated, or somebody's not doing something right, or somebody's not quite following the instructions. Then to look at that and consider, take a deep breath and consider what's going on inside before we say something about it. Reflect on our own experience before, say, correcting somebody else. And just, not that we shouldn't correct other people, but just to pause and look and see, am I suffering over this or not? If I am, maybe it's good to wait a bit, wait till I've calmed down, or wait till the suffering has passed away. Then I can say something about it. And we can use this as a reflection that applies to everything. So I'll leave that for reflection this morning.